I refreshed the bank account at 2 a.m. from my cramped San Francisco apartment. My heart stopped. $2.3 million gone. Every cent we'd raised together had vanished overnight. I called Dylan Pierce, my co-founder and best friend since college, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. My hands shook as I checked my email. Then I saw it, a press release in my inbox. Introducing Novacart, revolutionary e-commerce platform, founded by Dylan Pierce. My stomach twisted. That was our platform, our code, our dream. I clicked the link. There was Dylan's face smiling in a professional headshot I'd never seen before. The website looked identical to our prototype, just rebranded. He'd stolen everything, our investors' money, my algorithms, the business plan I'd spent 2 years perfecting. I tried calling again. This time he answered. "Dylan, what the hell did you click?" He hung up. I stared at my phone, unable to breathe. My best friend had just destroyed me. I showed up at his new office the next morning. Security tried stopping me, but I pushed through. Dylan sat behind a massive desk, sipping expensive coffee like nothing had happened. "It's just business, Marcus," he said, not even looking up. "You were always the brain, I'm the brand. People invest in faces, not code." I lunged forward, but 2 security guards grabbed me. "You stole from me," I shouted. Dylan finally looked at me, his expression cold. "I borrowed from us. There's a difference. You'll understand when you grow up." They dragged me out through the lobby. Outside, reporters had gathered. Someone had tipped them off. "Marcus Webb, is it true Novacart was your idea?" a woman called out. "Did Dylan Pierce steal your startup?" another shouted. I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. Cameras flashed. I stumbled away, my face burning with humiliation. That footage would be everywhere by noon. Dylan had orchestrated everything perfectly, even my public destruction. Within 48 hours, my world crumbled. Our 3 major investors pulled out completely. They believed Dylan's story that I was difficult to work with and lacked business execution. Our shared office lease was terminated. The landlord said Dylan had paid him off to remove my name. I came home to find my girlfriend, Ashley, packing her suitcase. "What are you doing?" I asked. She wouldn't look at me. "I can't do this, Marcus. I can't be with someone who lets people walk all over them." "He stole from me," I said quietly, "and you let him." She zipped her bag. "I need someone strong, someone who protects what's theirs." The door slammed behind her. I stood alone in the apartment we'd shared for 3 years. My phone buzzed, dozens of messages calling me the lazy founder, the ideas guy who couldn't execute. Tech blogs were destroying my reputation. Everything I'd built personally and professionally was gone. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor, staring at nothing. 2 weeks later, Dylan posted a video. He stood beside a brand new Tesla, keys dangling from his finger. Behind him was a glass office with Novacart glowing in blue letters. "Success isn't about ideas," he said to the camera. "It's about execution. Too many dreamers out there think coding in their bedroom makes them entrepreneurs." He smirked. "Marcus Webb is a cautionary tale. Smart guy, but he couldn't execute, no vision for scale. That's why I had to take control." The video had 300,000 views in 6 hours. Comments flooded in. "Brutal but true. Respect the honesty. Poor Marcus Law." I watched it 3 times, my jaw clenched tighter each time. Then I picked up my phone and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the wall. I sat there breathing hard, fists trembling, but something shifted inside me. The rage stopped spinning and started focusing. He wanted to bury me. Fine, I'd dig myself out and bury him instead. That night I sat alone in the dark. No girlfriend, no money, no reputation, but I still had my laptop. I opened my old codebase, the original files Dylan didn't know existed. He'd stolen our joint repository, but I'd always kept a private backup. My real algorithms, my innovations. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I created a new folder. I named it Revolt. I deleted every trace of our old partnership from my system. No more shared dreams, no more trust. This time I'd build something untouchable, something better, something that would prove who the real founder was. I worked until sunrise, my fingers flying across the keyboard. By morning I had a new foundation. It wasn't much, but it was mine, completely mine. Dylan thought he'd won. He had no idea the war was just beginning. I whispered to myself, "I'll build again." Smarter this time and untouchable. The days blurred together. I worked from an abandoned coworking space in Oakland. The building was half empty and nobody asked questions. I used the guest Wi-Fi, sitting in the corner where nobody could see my screen. I skipped meals to save money. I slept on a foldable chair, my jacket as a pillow. Meanwhile, Dylan's company raised another $5 million. I saw it on TechCrunch. His face was everywhere: panels, podcasts, magazine covers. The next tech visionary, they called him. My inbox stayed empty. No investors, no opportunities, no responses to the 100 emails I sent, but I kept coding. Every night, every morning, my back ached. My eyes burned. I lived on vending machine coffee and stale crackers. People walked past me like I was invisible. Maybe I was, but invisible meant I could work without interruption. Nobody expected anything from me anymore. That was my advantage. I had nothing left to lose. On day 23, my laptop crashed. The screen went black mid-save. I tried everything, restarting, hard resets, holding random key combinations. Nothing worked. All my progress gone. 3 weeks of coding vanished in a second. I sat frozen, staring at the dead screen. Then something inside me snapped. I screamed. I punched the wall until my knuckles bled. I flipped the table. Papers scattered everywhere. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing like a child. I'd lost everything again. There was nothing left. I wanted to give up. Then I remembered my old messenger bag. I tore through it frantically, dumping everything out. At the bottom, buried under old receipts, I found it, a flash drive. The original algorithm I'd created 2 years ago before Dylan was even involved. My hand shook as I plugged it into a borrowed computer. The files loaded. Everything was there. I laughed through my tears. Hope flickered again, small but real. I woke up one morning under a desk. My neck was stiff, my shirt wrinkled beyond saving. That's when I heard her, Mama Rosa, the night janitor. She was an older woman, maybe 60, with kind eyes and a thick accent. "You okay, baby?" she asked, setting down her mop. I sat up quickly, embarrassed. "Yeah, just working late." She didn't buy it. She disappeared and returned 10 minutes later with a sandwich and hot coffee from somewhere. "You eat," she insisted. "I can't pay you back right now," I admitted. She waved me off. "You think I don't know what fighting looks like? I see you here every night, working when everyone else goes home. You're fighting a war nobody sees." Those words hit me hard. She didn't know my story, didn't know about Dylan or the stolen money, but she saw me, really saw me. "Thank you," I whispered. Patted my shoulder. "Keep fighting, baby. Warriors don't quit." After she left, I stared at that sandwich for a long time. Then I ate it slowly, reminding myself I was still human, still here. I decided to take a risk. I created a new Twitter account, nothing fancy, just my name. I posted one sentence: if fairness had a platform, it would be revolt. I added a simple logo I'd designed in an hour. Then I closed my laptop and tried to sleep. When I woke up, my phone was exploding. The tweet had 50,000 likes. Tech blogs were writing about it. Who is Marcus Webb? What is revolt? The mysterious platform challenging corporate greed. Someone had screenshotted Dylan's old Instagram post where he'd called me a cautionary tale and put it side by side with my tweet. The internet was connecting the dots. Comments poured in. "Is this the guy Dylan Pierce screwed over? I'm rooting for Marcus." "Where do I sign up?" I sat there, stunned. I hadn't explained anything. Hadn't advertised, just one honest sentence, and people responded. For the first time in months, I felt something I'd forgotten existed: momentum. A whisper of hope that maybe, just maybe, people still believed in fairness. I spent the next 72 hours rebuilding everything. New interface. New colors, deep blue and silver, nothing like Novacart's flashy red. New messaging focused on transparency and trust. I worked until my vision blurred, fueled by Mama Rosa's sandwiches and spite. On a Friday night, I launched Revolt's beta. No press release. No ads, just a simple website and a post: "We're live." I sat back and waited, my heart pounding. One user signed up, then 5, then 20. By morning, I had 100 registered users. I stared at the dashboard at 3 a.m., hardly believing it. "They came," I whispered to the empty room. "Even without money, even without marketing." These were real people who believed in what Revolt stood for. They didn't know me, didn't owe me anything, but they chose to trust me anyway. I took a screenshot of that number, 100, and saved it. This was day one of my comeback, small but real, and real was all I needed. 2 weeks later, I got a notification. Someone in Sacramento had completed the first real transaction on Revolt, a small business selling handmade candles. The sale was only $47, but I stared at it like it was $1 million. It worked. The platform actually worked. I celebrated alone in that empty, coworking space with cold bread and a soda from the vending machine. It wasn't champagne, but it felt like victory. I opened my laptop camera and recorded a voice note to myself. Day 1 of the comeback. First sale, $47. It's not much, but it's proof. People trust what we're building. I saved the video. Someday I'd look back at this moment and remember what it felt like to start from nothing. My phone buzzed, another sale, then another. By the end of the week, Revolt had processed $3,000 in transactions. Pocket change compared to Novacart's millions. But it was honest money, clean money, and it was mine. I smiled for the first time in months. This was just the beginning. A tech influencer named Tyler Banks posted a video review. The title read, "The Startup That's Redefining Trust." I almost scrolled past it, assuming it was about some big company. Then I saw my logo. Revolt is what e-commerce should have been from the start, Tyler said. Transparent fees, no hidden charges, built by someone who actually cares. The video went viral, 2 million views in 24 hours. Traffic exploded. My servers couldn't handle it. The site crashed 3 times that afternoon. I panicked, working frantically to scale up bandwidth I couldn't afford. But as I watched the error logs, I realized something. This was a good problem. People wanted what I'd built. They were trying to get in. By midnight, I'd stabilized the servers using free credits from a cloud service. Sign-ups jumped to 5,000. My email inbox flooded with partnership requests and customer questions. I couldn't answer them all, but I tried. Each response personal, each person valued. This was the opposite of Dylan's approach, and people noticed. That's when Dylan reached out. An email appeared in my inbox at 9 a.m. Marcus saw the buzz around Revolt. Impressive. Let's grab coffee and talk about collaborating. Old time's sake. I read it 3 times. My finger hovered over the reply button. Then I dragged it to the trash, deleted, no response, no acknowledgement. He didn't deserve my words. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Revolt's backend had been hacked. User data wasn't stolen, but the system was corrupted. Error messages everywhere. I knew immediately who was behind it. Dylan's signature was all over the attack, the same techniques he'd used in college when we competed in hackathons. He was trying to destroy me before I became a real threat. My hands shook with rage, but I didn't have time for anger. I had users depending on me. I spent 19 hours straight rebuilding the security infrastructure. Stronger, better, impenetrable. By dawn, Revolt was back online, safer than before. Dylan had tried to break me. Instead, he'd made me stronger. I decided to fight back, but cleanly. I spent a week gathering evidence, screenshots from former Novacart users complaining about hidden fees, sudden account closures, and deleted negative reviews. All public information, all real complaints. I compiled everything into a transparency report titled, "Why Trust Matters, a Revolt Commitment." I didn't mention Dylan by name. Didn't have to. The data spoke for itself. I published it on Medium and shared it everywhere. The internet went wild. Tech journalists picked it up. Revolt founder exposes unethical practices in e-commerce industry. People started comparing the report to Novacart's practices. The connections were obvious. Comments flooded in. This is why I left Novacart. Dylan Pierce's company is shady. Revolt is the future. Dylan's company Instagram got bombarded with questions. His PR team went into damage control, posting statements about commitment to users that nobody believed. Meanwhile, Revolt's credibility soared. I didn't attack him directly. I just told the truth. And the truth was destroying him better than any revenge ever could. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. "Marcus Webb," the voice asked. "This is Julian Cross." I froze. Julian Cross had rejected my pitch 8 months ago, calling it too idealistic. Now he was calling me. "I was wrong about you," Julian said. "I saw your transparency report. I see what you're building. Revolt isn't just a platform, it's a movement." He paused. "I want to invest $500,000 for 8% equity." My breath caught. $500,000, legitimacy, runway. I need to think about— No, you don't, Julian interrupted. You need this and I need to be part of it. Send me the paperwork. The call ended. I sat there, phone in hand, unable to process it. An investor who'd once rejected me was now chasing me down. I looked around the coworking space, the broken chair, the borrowed Wi-Fi, Mama Rosa mopping in the corner. I was still here, still standing. I smiled. I'm just getting started, I whispered. The San Francisco Tech Conference was the biggest event of the year. I wasn't invited, but Dylan was. He had a keynote slot. I bought a general admission ticket with money I didn't have and showed up anyway. During the Q&A session after Dylan's presentation, I stood up. Dylan, you mentioned innovation, I said clearly. Can you explain your new AI-powered escrow protection feature? The room went silent. Dylan's face paled. We're announcing that next month. I pulled out my laptop. Interesting, because Revolt launched it this morning. I projected my screen onto the conference display. Tech people love a good hack. The crowd saw Revolt's interface, the AI escrow system running live. People started clapping, then cheering. Dylan stood frozen on stage, his prepared speech useless. He'd planned to announce that exact feature as Novacart's innovation. But I'd beaten him to it. A reporter shouted, "Marcus Webb, is it true you founded Novacart's original concept?" The room erupted. Dylan tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out. I walked out of that conference hall with my head high. The power had shifted. 2 weeks later, everything exploded. An anonymous source leaked internal Novacart documents showing Dylan had misused $1.2 million in investor funds, personal expenses, luxury cars, a vacation home in Malibu. The media went insane. Novacart founder accused of fund mismanagement. Dylan Pierce under investigation. Investors demand emergency audit. His company's Slack channels leaked. Employees panicking, executives pointing fingers. Dylan released a statement blaming his CFO and accounting errors. Nobody believed him. One investor publicly withdrew, posting on LinkedIn, "I trusted Dylan Pierce with my money. He betrayed that trust. I'm out." Others followed. The tech community smelled blood. Forums dissected every financial statement. Dylan's face, once on magazine covers, was now on hit pieces. His arrogance had made him enemies, and those enemies were circling. Meanwhile, Revolt quietly gained 50,000 new users that month. I didn't gloat publicly. Didn't need to. The universe was handling it for me. Karma worked in mysterious ways. I just kept building, kept improving, kept showing up. Let Dylan's empire crumble under its own weight. Dylan tried to fight back. Novacart suddenly slashed prices, 50% off all fees, undercutting Revolt completely. His PR team spun it as giving back to small businesses. But I knew the truth. He was hemorrhaging users and panicking. I called an emergency meeting with my small team, 3 developers I'd hired with Julian's investment. "He's trying to starve us out," one said. "We can't compete with free." I shook my head. "We're not competing on price, we're competing on values." That afternoon, I announced Revolt's Community Edition, completely free for small sellers making under $10,000 monthly. No catches, no hidden fees. Just genuinely free for people starting out. The response was overwhelming. This is what ethical business looks like. Revolt just won my loyalty forever. Dylan's price cuts couldn't compete with authenticity. His revenue plummeted while users flooded to Revolt. He tried to outbid me. Instead, he'd exposed his desperation. I'd learned something Dylan never understood. People don't just want cheaper, they want better. And better meant trustworthy. That's when they started coming, Dylan's employees. First, it was a junior developer named Marcus, ironic, I know, who sent a cold email. "I can't work for Dylan anymore. What he's doing is wrong. I want to join Revolt." Then a designer, then a project manager. They brought stories and secrets, internal memos about manipulating reviews, plans to acquire and shut down competitors, evidence of everything we suspected. I faced a choice. I could use their information to destroy Dylan completely, leak everything, crush him, or I could stay clean. I called a meeting with the defectors. "I appreciate what you're telling me, but I won't use insider information to fight dirty," I said. "If you want to join Revolt, you're welcome, but we're not building this company on revenge." One of them smiled. "That's exactly why we came to you." Word spread quietly. Marcus Webb turned down dirt on Dylan Pierce. He's playing the long game. That's integrity. More employees left Novacart, not because I recruited them, but because they chose differently. Dylan was losing his team, and that meant he was losing everything. It happened on a Tuesday. Novacart's website went down, not a technical glitch, a mass exodus. Thousands of users demanded refunds simultaneously, crashing their payment system. The scandal broke. Novacart had been charging hidden fees, burying them in fine print. A consumer protection group filed a class action lawsuit. Investors issued ultimatums. By Friday, 3 of Dylan's 5 board members had resigned. His carefully built empire was collapsing in real time. That's when my phone rang. Dylan's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Marcus, his voice was shaking. We need to talk. I'm proposing a merger. Combine Novacart and Revolt. We'd be unstoppable together. I let the silence hang. You can't merge with what you tried to bury, Dylan. Please, You stole from me, you humiliated me, you tried to destroy me. My voice was calm. Now you want to be saved by the person you threw away. Marcus, I hung up. No anger, no satisfaction, just finality. He'd made his choices. Now he had to live with them. I looked out my new office window, a real office with actual furniture. Dylan had taught me everything, just not in the way he'd planned. 2 months later, the news broke. Novacart files for bankruptcy protection. I was sitting in my office when I saw the headline. My team was celebrating in the conference room. We just closed a $5 million Series A funding round. But I stepped away to read the article alone. Dylan's company was finished. Assets being liquidated. Lawsuits pending. Former employees scrambling for new jobs. The tech blogs were ruthless. The fastest rise and fall in Silicon Valley history. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, but all I felt was empty. I thought of Dylan in college, staying up all night to help me debug code. Dylan at my graduation, cheering louder than anyone. That person was gone, or maybe he'd never existed. I looked out at the San Francisco skyline, the same view Dylan probably had months ago when he was on top. This isn't revenge, I whispered to myself. It's balance. The universe had a way of correcting things. I just worked hard enough to survive until it did. Justice wasn't about destroying him. It was about building something better. Phone rang 3 weeks later. Dylan's name on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered, Marcus. His voice was barely recognizable, thin, defeated, broken. I lost everything, my investors, my company, my reputation. I needed you to know. He stopped. I waited for an apology, some acknowledgement of what he'd done. I needed you to know it wasn't personal, he finished. It was always business. My jaw clenched. Even now, he couldn't admit the truth, couldn't own his choices. Goodbye, Dylan. I ended the call. No anger, no lectures. He didn't deserve my words anymore. Some people never learn. They justify, rationalize, and blame until they're alone with their choices. Dylan would have to live with what he'd done. That was punishment enough. I blocked his number, not out of hate, out of closure. That chapter was over. He was a ghost from a past I'd outgrown. I had a company to build, a team to lead, and a mission to fulfill. He was no longer part of my story. I drove back to Oakland that weekend, to the apartment where everything had fallen apart. The building looked smaller than I remembered, shabbier. The landlord had rented it to someone new, but I stood outside for a while, remembering. This was where Ashley had left, where I'd sat on the floor, broken, where I'd decided to start over. I thought about the person I'd been then, devastated, humiliated, lost. And the person I was now, CEO of a growing company, leader of a team, builder of something meaningful. The pain had built my purpose. Every sleepless night in that coworking space, every moment of doubt, every time I wanted to quit but didn't. It had all led here. I sat in my car outside that apartment and smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd survived. The old Marcus would have seen this as revenge. The new Marcus understood it was growth. I started the engine and drove away. I didn't need to come back here again. That version of my life was over. A better one had begun. 3 months later, I stood on stage at a youth entrepreneurship conference. The auditorium was packed, hundreds of young faces looking up at me, hungry for advice. I'm going to tell you something important, I began. When someone betrays you, your first instinct is revenge. You want them to hurt like you hurt. But here's what I learned. Revenge is a waste of your potential. I shared my story, not for sympathy but for truth. Dylan's theft, the rock bottom, the rebuild, Revolt's rise, Novacart's fall. I didn't win by destroying Dylan, I explained. I won by becoming better than the person I was when he knew me. Don't chase revenge, chase mastery. The audience stood. Cameras flashed. People lined up afterward to shake my hand, share their stories, ask for guidance. A young woman told me she'd been stolen from by her business partner. What should I do? She asked. I looked her in the eye. Build something so good they'll regret underestimating you, then forgive them by moving on. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. That's when I knew. This story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who'd ever been knocked down and had to choose, stay down or stand up. I stood on the rooftop of Revolt's new headquarters, overlooking San Francisco Bay. The Golden Gate Bridge glowed in the sunset. Below me, the city buzzed with ambition, dreams, and people fighting their own battles. My phone buzzed. Our platform had processed 10 million transactions today, 10 million moments of trust between buyers and sellers, built on the foundation of my worst day. I thought about Dylan sometimes, not with anger, with understanding. He taught me what kind of leader I didn't want to be, what kind of person I refused to become. His betrayal had been my education, the most expensive lesson I'd ever learned, but the most valuable. Mama Rosa had been right. I was fighting a war nobody saw, and I'd won not by destroying my enemy, but by building something he couldn't. He stole my funds, I said to the wind, but I rebuilt my future. Revenge wasn't my victory. Growth was. Behind me, my team laughed in the office. Ahead of me, the sun set on another day of building something meaningful. This was Vengeance Estate, where karma always pays in full, not through destruction, through becoming.